After being eliminated in the second round of the 2020 playoffs by the Miami Heat, a defeated Giannis Antetokounmpo straight up told this to the media.
And hopefully we can learn from this and get better as a team and come back and hopefully we can build a culture in Milwaukee that for many years that we can come out here and compete every single year for the championship.
And if you're a Bucks fan, those words sound kinda optimistic for sure. But whether Giannis is staying in Milwaukee for the long haul or not is a whole different question. And with the big 2021 free agency coming up, multiple teams will all take their turns in luring the potential two-time MVP out of the Bucks. And unless he signs with Milwaukee this 2020 offseason for an estimated $247 million Supermax deal, you can expect to hear all sorts of buzz and talk as to where the Greek Freak will eventually land if ever he decides to move on from his team. But despite all the shortcomings that the Bucks had to deal with the past few seasons, are there even enough reasons for the superstar to jump ship and move on to another team? Or are all these trade rumors and free agency scenarios simply misleading us fans? What's good guys, my name is Riro and in this video, we'll try to dig in the whole Giannis free agency thing and try to make sense of it all. Will we see Giannis join or get traded to another contender soon? Or have the Milwaukee Bucks already completed their master plan to make sure that the Greek Freak stays with them for the foreseeable future? Just by looking at the past two seasons, there's no arguing as to whether or not the Bucks have been a dominant team in the East. Because for real, there aren't a handful of teams who were able to contain them, but unfortunately, that just goes for the regular season at least. And despite them winning 75% of the regular season games beginning in 2018, the team's obvious weaknesses or the loopholes in Mike Budenholzer's system have been continuously exposed in the playoffs. First, by the 2019 Raptors championship team, and recently, by this unbelievable Jimmy Butler-led Heat squad. Well sure, there are those reasons citing Coach Bud's alleged mismanagement of players' minutes and his inability to adjust in in-game situations. But beyond the coaching, there are other obvious reasons as to why Giannis hasn't been able to assert his usually unstoppable self in the postseason. And believe it or not, a lot of it really has got to do with his own struggles. For starters, Giannis still hasn't developed a steady outside shot, as in the 2020 playoffs, he fired at an unreliable 33% three-point rate, and in the Miami series alone, his three-point shooting dropped to an abysmal 21.4%. And of course, the Heat were smart enough to exploit this weakness as much as they could, which led to Giannis firing out of rhythm or very early in the possession a lot of times. And throughout the year, noticeable holes in the Greek Freak's game still includes his poor free throw shooting and his subpar mid-range game, as he just shot 34.4% in attempts which he took away from the rim during the 2019-2020 regular season. Well, we can just say that if you're able to defend the paint well enough to disrupt Giannis' driving lanes, then there's a huge chance you'll disable the Bucks big time. And with those woes still present in his game, this Bucks team usually has to rely on catch-and-shoot threes from when he kicks the ball out for a good look. But here's the thing. While Chris Middleton has been pretty solid all year long shooting at an excellent 42% rate from deep, that number has dropped to 35% in the playoffs. Plus, he isn't also necessarily a great shot creator who can consistently take the load off Giannis during crucial moments. And it also doesn't help when Eric Bledsoe ranks second on the Bucks in touches per game and possession time per game when he isn't necessarily a great playmaker while just shooting 28.3% from catch-and-shoot threes during his whole 2.5 seasons with Milwaukee. And in my opinion, Malcolm Brogdon could have been really special playing alongside Giannis if only he had more time with the Bucks, but of course, they traded him to Indiana for a couple of picks, most likely to avoid paying the luxury tax. So yeah, it's imperative that Giannis improves on those weak spots in his game if he wants to carry his squad further in the coming years. But as of the moment, I think the Bucks really need to make adjustments and find 1. Guys who can consistently spot up from 3 and play defense, and 2. Good playmakers who can take the ball off Giannis when needed. Because as good as Chris Middleton is, it looks like he's going to be a number 3 option at best for this Bucks team if they're really trying to go that far while maximizing Giannis' skill set. Here's the thing. Let's say Milwaukee gets to resign Giannis to a long-term deal. But does that even guarantee that he won't demand a trade soon enough if the front office fails to surround him with winning pieces? To put it simply, if Giannis is Shaq, just as Max Kellerman says, then the Bucks really need to find his Kobe out there. But if this offseason doesn't allow the Bucks to do that, they might at least try to succeed in finding his Derek Fisher or Rick Fox. All in all, the Bucks have to play their cards right, considering that there aren't a lot of young assets that they can work with if they're planning to trade for a potential second or third star. Plus, the 2020 offseason might be a dog-eat-dog fight between teams trying to compete for a limited number of good free agents, which would make it harder for the Bucks to sign guys which would fit their system. But if Milwaukee gets to figure out a good trade package, which would probably move around pieces such as Brook Lopez, Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, Ersan Ilyasova, Dante DiVincenzo, and probably their 2020, 2024, and 2026 first-round picks, then they might just get the right player who can move the needle and push the Bucks to become favorites in the East again next season. And with all the talk of a potential Chris Paul deal, yeah, I think that pairing him with Giannis and Middleton actually makes sense and it would just do wonders for Milwaukee. Of course, we all know that CP3 can do everything pretty well, from distributing the ball, shooting from mid-range or from deep, driving into the lane, and even disrupting passes. But if CP3 is going to elevate Giannis' game in a particular area, I think that it would be through the pick and roll. Yeah, the Greek Freak is a very good and very efficient player at rolling into the basket, as he actually scores 1.4 points per roll that he makes. The problem is that, over the past 2 seasons, he only acted as a roller in a total of 156 plays, which is a very small number for a guy with such speed and length in the paint. And considering that guys like Domantas Sabonis, Bam Adebayo, and Rudy Gobert had more rolls to the basket than Giannis over the past 2 years, it just makes you imagine how much more dominant the guy would be if only the Bucks had a more capable point guard to facilitate for him. And if acquiring CP3 isn't gonna be possible, I'd actually like the Bucks to try and trade for another OKC guard in Dennis Schroeder. Well, he's not the point guard but is way cheaper at $15.5 million and he's just 27 years old. Plus, he could bring tons of playoff experience and toughness to this Milwaukee team, not to mention, the guy is also very experienced in running the pick and roll while also being a legit scoring threat from almost anywhere on the floor. Also, there's only a year left in his contract, which leaves the Bucks with more cap space for 2021 if they choose not to resign him moving forward. And moving on, I think the Bucks should also prioritize acquiring solid wing guys who can play heavy minutes alongside Giannis and Middleton, especially during the playoffs when defenses are much tighter. There are gonna be a few good names in the free agent market this offseason, but personally, I'd like to see them go after guys like Joe Harris, Jay Crowder, or even Bogdan Bogdanovic. I feel like either one of those guys would be lethal additions to a Giannis-centered system moving forward. Barring any trade happening this coming summer, I honestly feel like Giannis is still leaning towards resigning with Milwaukee. And well, it's because for the sole reason that the guy has seemingly always been transparent regarding his thoughts on free agency and how he wants to stay in Milwaukee and win a championship there in the long run. Of course, anybody could be wrong, but Giannis just strikes me as the type of guy who would have his teammates back all the time. Well, obviously we've heard those things from guys like KD, Paul George, LeBron, and Kyrie all spoke about loyalty before things took a different turn. But I think Giannis is just built different and even if he chooses to sign with another contender or whatnot, he'll still have my full respect for sure because you always got to trust the guy to do what he thinks is best for him. But I think Giannis has seen scenarios like this play out before and he just might go a different route simply to cement his legacy as a superstar who carried his team all the way. And actually, this isn't new in the NBA. We've already seen superstars stick with their teams before despite having chances to head out for a bigger market team or to get paid more money. Prime examples of this would be Tim Duncan, who opted to stay with the Spurs in the 2000s despite being lured to play with star-studded teams. And also, there's Dirk, who as we all know has time and again stuck with the Mavs while taking numerous pay cuts to help improve his team's chances of landing other solid guys. And we know that those moves could actually pay off with championships. Well, maybe not most of the time, but yeah, there's a really solid chance that the Bucks can continue to surround Giannis with the right players. And in the past few seasons, we've actually seen the Bucks management make good short-term moves since 2017, beginning with dumping unwanted salaries of guys like Teletovic, John Henson, and Matthew Dellavedova for better players. And while those trades didn't necessarily win them a chip, obviously, you just know that they have been preparing for this Giannis free agency thing for a pretty long time now, just by making those roster decisions. And it's kinda hard to speculate what's going to happen this early, but for all we know, Giannis might actually be a guy who really takes pride in playing for the Bucks long term. And with the Eastern Conference looking as wide open as ever, I wouldn't be surprised if the Greek Freak signs that supermax in Milwaukee as he looks forward to finally take over the league one playoff series at a time. Thank you for sticking until the end of the video, and if you've enjoyed this one, please help me promote my content by subscribing to the channel. It will be a great help for me as a new content creator, and if you think Giannis is going somewhere else, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section, or if you want to hear about anything NBA in the channel, then feel free to hit me up and let me know. Also, don't forget to smash the like button, or better yet, share the video so we can spread the word. Again, this is Riro, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace!